Hi everyone, my name is Debbie Manville and I run the 1 Million Diamonds Art Instagram. And today I'm talking with Tony Soman, who also is known as Rubin415. Hi Tony,
Good morning.
how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good. I was wondering if we could start off just by talking a little bit about your background in art and maybe where it started. I also wanted to know not only about your background, but um, also about how you've become such a successful artist, and during all of this maybe if you could show us a little bit about your art and your process.
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Okay, cool.
So, where should I begin?
Well, tell me, were you always into art? Were you into art as a child? And maybe when did it start for you?
Uh, yeah, I've been into art from even before I can remember. There's one story that uh, maybe I was like 4 years old. We lived in a 8-story building, me and my brother and our mom. And my mom told me that one day she caught me in the hallway. We lived on the second floor, just scribbling with crayons. Uh, she thought I was in my room drawing on paper, but she found me in the hallway. There was like 5 apartments on each floor, but I was in the hallway just scribbling on the walls. And yeah, she then spent the afternoon cleaning it up. So um, yeah, I think it's always been there as a form to express myself. And I mean, what I started doing then pretty quickly was doing graffiti, tagging on the streets. I got immediately hooked on it. And when you're that young, you don't really analyze things or ask yourself why you do things you think are fun. So it wasn't until much later that I started asking myself those questions. But to answer your question, yeah, it's always been there. And but growing up in a neighborhood with, we didn't have much. So like art school and stuff was not really an option for a kid like me. So if I wanted to go out and paint, I thought it was very boring in school with like watercolors and pastels. And when graffiti came, it was like I didn't even think about, like, it was just like, yes, it felt very much like me, my form of expressing myself. I went to a construction site and found some marker spray cans, and we learned it the hard way. I remember my friend, he sprayed himself with a red marker, spray marker in the face, and it was, yeah, we didn't know anyone, me and my friend. We just learned everything. There was a little graffiti scene. There was some cool guys who knew everything. We tried to find what they did and figure out how they did it. And I could speak for hours about, the topic of graffiti.
When was that? Like, how old were you when you started doing that about?
uh, I was around 9 because graffiti came to Sweden in 1984 when they showed the movie Style Wars on public television. There were only 2 channels, so it was either channel 1 or 2, but I didn't see it. The year after, they showed Beat Street, and I saw Beat Street, and that was in '85, like the spring. So I was 9 years old, and um, there's a lot of stuff I don't remember from being that young, but most graffiti related stuff I still remember like vividly. the impression was so strong. I still almost start to hyperventilate when I think back of it. It's I don't think that feeling will ever go away.
I think
So
that's the
good or
point.
bad, I don't know.
What did you start doing graffiti in? Were you using spray paint or were you using markers? What was your medium?
Both. I mean, we didn't have money, so we went to like the bookstores and stole markers, gas station. I still remember, I think we actually bought the first spray can. We made up plans how to save for it. Me and my Polish friend, whose name was Lucas, we did everything together. It was me and my friend Lucas, who doesn't get nearly enough credit for the graffiti scene in our small hometown of Gothenburg in Sweden. He's never mentioned in any of the documentation or books, but we, yeah, we started stealing markers, and I think actually now that I think about it, we bought the first spray can. We found some on construction sites, and yeah, and the main fill-in on the first piece we did, like a neon green. That was my friend Lucas' older sister's hairspray. Remember, we're talking about 85, 86. So like neon green hairspray. So that was the fill-in. Uh,
I like it.
so yeah, spray cans and markers. We didn't have subway. We had like a tram system, trolley, rail car, whatever you want to call it, and that became our. That's where we spent a lot of time tagging inside, outside, riding those trams. Uh, so and we tagged everywhere, of course, in our school, in our classrooms, everywhere.
And when did you start turning it into like the shapes that you're doing right now?
I spent quite a few years being a toy, which is the graffiti term of, when you're still learning,
Yes.
imitating, you call biting others. Uh, I still remember my first proper piece. It was 91. Uh, and around that time too, I also did some abstract stuff. I was always, for me, the letters has always been most important, but I also like doing characters, figurative work, and I did some abstract experiments. Um, like my hometown is known for very good technique. For us, it was very important to really learn the craft, learn to do those not only straight, but thin and sharp. So I spent so many years from like 85 to 91 just practicing like the perfume stores, not a single one of them had the cap on them. That was the only way to find caps, nozzles, hairspray, perfumes. So and then I couldn't go to our local grocery store where my mom did all the groceries. Like it became embarrassing. My mom bought like hairspray and the cap was missing because I don't know if it was me, maybe some other kid, but it was just crazy. Like I remember my mom being like really upset, and so I spent so many years just learning trial and error. So 91, when I started doing like real pieces, I had learned enough. uh yeah, it was hand in hand, focused on letters, but also like always the will to experiment.
Okay.
So yeah.
And then you're talking about technique, about how it was very important for that area for you to be a certain way. Now, I kind of feel, since I've gotten to see your work in person, I kind of feel like that kind of still translates into what you're doing now. And I was even thinking about using the thinner paint myself, but I saw some of your work in person in the city right before the coronavirus situation happened at your art talk, which was amazing. And I
Oh
really,
yeah, thanks for coming.
No
That
problem.
was weird to think back of it. It's just like a few months ago, but it feels like it was the old
Forever.
life.
Yeah, I know. It's really
B-
so different.
BC, which from now on stands for before Corona.
Yeah, right. So you're still working in that with your process right now. You were telling me you're working with a thinner paint, and I've seen your lines, and you don't use tape. And now you don't use tape on walls either?
No, I mean sometimes if I do like these window reflection gradients, uh, I did, but now I mostly do those gradients before, so I don't have to mask. So it's messy, and then I just hand paint around. So yeah, you're correct. That's the way I like to paint. That's the way I think it's fun to paint.
Okay. Would you like to share your screen and show us some of what you're working on?
Uh, yeah, speaking of 91, I just searched 91 on my computer real quick. So I'm gonna show you early abstract experiment. Let's see. I'm gonna click on share.
Should come right up. There we go.
All right. So here, uh, this is 91.
Oh my gosh. That's
Uh,
amazing. I love it.
and you can see my ladder.
Yeah, it's a bike stand.
So yeah, this is one example. I mean, I had no idea what I was doing. The middle part is like really messy. I remember just spraying like acetone and solvents just to dissolve the paint, and just didn't know what I was doing. And then around I was doing, because technique was so important. And yeah, I mean, I guess you can say it's part geometric. Um, so yeah, and I mean, part of what I do, the stuff that I do today can be traced like back to this. This thing actually grew. It started only with the middle part, then I started building around, and I actually we actually rolled above the wall like super high up without even we weren't capable to paint that big, but still we kind of went big already back then. And actually, this piece I kept building and building till it at the end it was pretty big.
Did you
And
keep
I
going
did a
back to work on it?
yeah. This was underneath a garage. It was like a hidden place. So nobody knew it for a couple of years besides me and my friend Lucas. And then at this point, 91, there was already more people coming there, but it was still like our own place where nobody was bothering us. Like the cops didn't show up. Back then, they started doing that a couple of years later. So yeah.
Show me some of, if you don't mind, would you show me some of your other art that you have that you've been working on?
More recent stuff.
Yeah, you were
Yeah.
showing me a few of the sculptures and not the sculptures, excuse me, some of the sketches. And I really was, I'm always blown away by your work because I really love it. And I've been a big fan of your
Thank
work for
you.
over 10 years. So
Wow, that's crazy.
I know, right? 10 years passes fast too. But yeah,
Thank you so much. And
I
yeah,
really love it. And it's nice to see it change a little bit, but also how your process is. It's interesting to me because we all do it a different way.
so here's um, a recent finished uh, mural commission done during the pandemic, the quarantine.
Hmm.
And so I can show a little bit about the process of uh, um
How you came to do it? Yeah, let me see that.
Yeah.
if you don't mind.
So what I usually begin with, I like to visit whatever
Okay.
space, site visit, just to get a sense of space itself and the surroundings.
Okay.
And this project, this was actually, it's a construction fence by the Hudson Yards. So it's a tricky surface. It's not flat. It's not straight. It's the bottom part is wood. The top part is it's fence. So I was like, okay. So they wanted to do print it on vinyl, and I was like, sure, but I'm not a big fan of digital printed stuff in itself. I like using it as a creative tool, and I was like, okay, so maybe if we do, how about, I always like to have a unique aspect of everything I do. Like, how can I, do something I haven't done before? And I was like, so if we do the top part digital, I hand paint the bottom part, and I probably gonna hand paint stuff on the digital top part too. But uh, so I made a quick. I usually try and explain people like I was like, all right, let's. Then I was like, we can make it modular too, because the construction fence it's modular. So I was like, if we do the printed vinyl in parts, they can actually rearrange if they want.
Mm.
But then it's also, you need to know, like, it's easy to go overboard with things sometimes. So some ideas works well as an idea and on paper, but maybe it doesn't translate as well. Key is always to keep it simple, focus on the essence. So I let go of the modular thinking, but I was like, all right, let's do the combination of hand painted and digital. And everything always starts, I do these pencil sketches super quick. Here I have some for a mural. Normally I like to take a photo and print it out and sketch directly on the photo. That's something else. And I'm not a big fan. I don't really like, I think it's kind of, I like painting in real life, but sometimes people who commission you, they want to see, they want to know what you're gonna do. They can't just, pay you a lot of money and not knowing what it's gonna be. So when they want to see renderings, I like to give them options. I like to work in series, so it's a lot of like wasted work in a way. So for the fence install, I made like 5 different color palettes, different designs, and they chose this one.
Okay.
But the work doesn't always have to be wasted. Like, one of the options that they didn't like, sometimes you see stuff happens just by doing. Here I saw something and I made a quick crop of it and reworked. I thought I had it in this folder. Maybe it's I don't know where it went, but the middle part of this became an idea for a painting on canvas that I'm going to do now in July.
Okay. Very good.
So anyways, they chose this, and then I had to figure out, all right, the top 2/3 was going to be printed digitally.
Wow, look
I
at that.
I had to do a lot of math. Let's see if I have any of those digital files. I can show. Uh, Here's a sample my wife was holding. We're trying different materials like mesh. It's very windy. They didn't want to use solid vinyl because they said it was going to fly away. The wind is really strong down there.
Yeah, it
But I was
is.
But I was like, here's mesh. I told them this is too transparent because they have a construction site and buildings in the background. It's not gonna work. So they did find a thinner, solid material because I told them, look, it's not going to work.
Okay.
Uh, uh, yeah, originally I did the modular things. I had to do a lot of math with the digital, like you print in a scale like 1/10. You can't do original files that big.
Yeah, I know.
And also calculate so they had extra margin to install the vinyl and still make it seamless with the extra like it. There's a lot of things that you have to think about. But they actually printed and tried to install it a couple of times.
Okay.
Like 3 times before they got it right. So that made my hand painting part delayed, especially during the pandemic. So it was difficult. So
It
then I
came out
finally,
beautiful.
yeah, I went there. I had my kind of it was a mix of studio and interior mural setup. I set up the table and I was winging everything. I didn't have time because of the pandemic to match and have the right colors. So I was color matching on the vinyl, painting and mixing as I went on site. And it was actually cool because some colors didn't work like to match exactly. The surface wasn't, it was kind of 3-dimensional. So, and then they also didn't install it all the way down. There was a little bit of the construction fence. I tried to paint everything like squeezed in between a brush.
I think it looks great though.
Yeah, and also by
Because
not doing it.
when you're looking at it, you're really not paying attention to the whole. You're looking at the actual piece, your eyes trying to put it together as one. So you're not really
Yeah,
even seeing that there's a hole on that in between at all.
yeah,
I think it looks seamless.
yeah, thanks. And also there was a lot of like details, the metal poles, they have some kind of box in front of it, which I included.
With
Yeah, and
the planters.
yeah, when I was taking a photo, I don't know anything about cars, but I was laughing so much. This guy came there to show off his whatever car it is, but it became a kind of cool accent to the piece.
Yeah, it works.
I
The
still
orange and
haven't
the blue.
edited. I've only edited like one photo. So yeah, this is one example, and yeah, they have like this little traffic sign too. I painted it like in this purple color.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, you could see
They
it.
Yeah, they didn't tell me to do it. I don't know. It's like city property. I don't know if I was allowed to touch it. It also, it's like there's rules. It's safety. Maybe it should be green. I don't know, but
Well,
I
now you have documentation
yeah.
that could get you in trouble. But anyway.
So, and like you see, my copper outline circle went over the vinyl, and uh, I was also maybe going to change something in the vinyl, but I redid like there's a white circle. Yeah, so see, and also because it's solid vinyl, they cut these little holes in it, which kind of looks funny to allow the wind. So they were still a little bit worried about the wind aspect, having like a big sail there, but it's gonna be fine.
No, I think it's perfect. I think it really came out very nice. It sounds like it was very uh, particular and meticulous, you know.
Yeah,
That's good to
especially during the pandemic, like mixing the colors on site, the light conditions were extreme. The light change is so much in that area because all the new high buildings
Mm-hmm.
and facing uh, east. So I had the sun in front of me most of the day, and then as it goes down, it was behind me. So a lot of shadows, sun in front of me, which was like shining still through. You could see through the vinyls. So it was really difficult to mix the colors, but I mean, I try to look at things as creative challenges. Stuff happened, like I stopped trying to do the exact match and just played with the depth a little bit and gave it another dimension. So yeah.
I think it worked out really nicely.
Thank you.
Is there some other work that you'd like to show us?
Uh, let's see what else. Uh, hmm. Here's another project. I'm working on a interior project, which is delayed because of the pandemic. It's gonna be the first where it's going to be a corridor where I'm also gonna paint the ceiling.
Okay.
And why I decided to paint the ceiling is because it's very cool. It tilts. So I'm going to paint both sides and then the ceiling. And here's when I'm working on the renderings for that project.
Okay. I like your color choices for this too.
Yeah, that's always a challenge to make it like work with, like this is a space with no natural light, so I'm gonna go a little bit more vibrant to yeah, since there's no natural light, to make it appear more brighter maybe.
Okay.
uh
Okay.
yeah,
Let me ask you this. Since I do
I'm gonna
have,
stop sharing.
that's fine. Since I do have a decent bit of people that, you know, are artists and are trying to become successful in
Yeah.
art, what do you think is like the best way to do it? Because I feel like you've really kind of got a whole bunch of different things that you've done in your life since, you know, you've done credit cards, you've done all types of different designs for things, you do giant murals, you do hotels. What kind of advice can you give to artists who are trying to make it in the art world?
It's difficult because we all have our own unique story. And
Mm-hmm.
in my case, I thought about it, and I think in my case, the thing is, I never plan or try to become an artist. Because remember, doing graffiti, that wasn't considered art back then. It was illegal. It was considered a bad thing. People were telling me, you need to stop. You need to cut your hair and get a real job. And I tried to do that for many years. I had a break for almost 10 years from painting, trying to become like everybody else. And in hindsight, for me, that was the best thing that could have happened, because yeah, I believe everything happens for a reason. And without that break and trying to do those normal things, I wouldn't be doing what I do now. So I've never gone a traditional route when it comes to anything. I haven't been to art school, and I really, of course, I an artist would have been great, but it was just too far away for me. Like I didn't see a way how to become an artist, and an artist that actually can support, do art that pay the bills. That wasn't on the map. So, but from like my journey, that sounds so corny, but if I can now in hindsight look back, I think there's some things that applies to, like, no matter what story, what baggage you carry. And I mean, it's those classic things. Like let me try and mention like some really good things. I mean, first of all, don't listen to what anybody says. uh,
Yep.
we all have opinions. People have so many opinions. That's something I've really tried to get better at, because I remember being younger, it was so important what other people thought about what you're doing. And to learn to become the opposite, it's not easy. And of course, we all want to hear it, that what we do is uh, nice and good. But at the end of the day, it's finding your voice, and you do that by not paying. Yeah, it's don't care what anybody says, and allow things to take time, because that voice, it's not going to come overnight. Um, and that's especially younger people who's been growing up with internet and social media, where everything has to be so quick, which has its good sides, but like, allow things to take time. So things happen just by doing it. And you told me you've been following my work for like 10 years,
If not longer.
and things happen. Like, I like to paint a lot, and that's also important advice. I almost have a sports guy's mentality towards what I do. Like, when it comes to practice, I try and pick up the pencil, even if it's just for 5 minutes. So it's super important. If you have a break for a year, you can't go around, and you need to put in the work to get back first to where you were. So uh, so yeah, do it. What's the right word? Continuous.
Repetitively, every day, constantly.
Yeah, but at the same time, don't care what other people say. Maybe it's for some people, maybe that's not the thing. For maybe they pick it up when inspiration strikes. So you have to take everything with a grain of salt. But the basic stuff, like hard work, it's uh I paint on Christmas Eve, New Year's days. I've sacrificed birthdays, weekends. Uh, so you have to you'll get to a point where you have to prioritize things, and uh, it's not always easy. So everything goes hand in hand. It's hard work, and yeah, it's going to take time, but that's the beauty of it, and which leads to fun. Like I said, I like to paint freehand, because that's the way I like to paint. And I remember being younger, when I came to the point where I had to start, taking responsibility and pay bills and rent and stuff. And I started doing commissions that I didn't like. I did signs, stuff people told me to paint, and that's part of why I also, which led to my break, because I totally lost the fun aspect. And when I found myself back to painting, that was I constantly remind myself of that it's a difficult and tricky balance. Uh, become a professional artist. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to survive
Hmm.
and pay the bills. And how do you do that while maintaining your artistic integrity? I think that's one of the main challenges, because you can't. It's healthy to say no, but you can't just say no, because you can't become snobby, think like. But it's not about that. Often I'm like, okay, sometimes I'm like, I'm obviously not the right fit. So that's how I approach it. I would never do anything, where I don't put 100% everything into it, because that will reflect in the end result. But a lot of times you can make a lot of progress by having a good communication and conversation, and that can very often lead to that you do the commission without compromising, and the people commissioning you get what they want. So, but it's usually it's hard work. Once again, like some of the projects I do, there can be a year or two the work before, like the once I get to the actual painting, the painting is the easy part and the fast
Yeah.
part. So it may look easy when you post all the stuff on social media, but there's always so much more work that goes into, like I showed you the one example. So, but I think if you have the motivation, all these things with hard work, dedication, stuff, they come pretty naturally. But it's good to know in case you're wondering, like, if art really is what you want to do every day for the rest of your life. It's trends come and go. I've seen that many times, and so, which is okay for some people, like graffiti. For most kids, it was a phase. Most people I know, they did cut their hair and they do have real jobs, and it's all fantastic. But it wasn't a phase for me, and sometimes it's uh, yeah, would have been easier. It was if it was a phase. Like I still, in certain ways, think I'm still in one way the same kid. So part of me like didn't move forward, got stuck
Uh,
there. But so what?
I think that's why you became the successful artist that you are, is because you have decided that that's just, as much as you said you're not going to be an artist, you still
Yeah,
are every day, very focused, dedicated, and very tuned into it, and
yeah. By
it's the
doing
practice.
the stuff, I didn't like, I became aware of that. That's also something I think an artist, you either are or you're not. Doesn't matter how much you go to art school, it doesn't automatically mean you're an artist.
I didn't go
Uh,
to art school. I wasn't
yeah,
allowed to because art doesn't pay.
yeah, exactly. And but I realized like that it's what I am, and it's there's nothing I can do about it besides do something good about it, and this is uh, the result of that. So I had a 10-year break. I did other things. Now I painted. It's way more than 10 years, but it's a wonderful thing when you find like what you're not and what you are, and uh, yeah, you can't be everything, you can't do everything. And I realized there's some stuff, it has its pros and cons. I know some things I will ever be never be able to realize because I chose this path. But you need to make choices and do the right choices and feel good about it, and not base those choices on what's going to be most beneficial for you, like money wise and stuff. I think if you do it with your heart, it will also pay off. So honest expression.
I think you have to be truthful to yourself. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, well, I have definitely learned a lot from you today, and I do appreciate you doing a talk with us and showing us some of your work so personally, because we usually only get to see just some sketches on Instagram, but I got to see a lot more of your digital work today too, so that was cool. So thank you.
No, you're very welcome, and thank you for doing this. It's, I mean, I'm a fan of 1 million diamonds, and that's also an inspiration. And to be able to share, inspire and be inspired, so it goes both ways. So I'm happy to share a little bit more than I'm able to do normally. So
Thank you.
fun talk. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And thank you for clearing your time because I know you're super busy right now with everything with the murals. So
Yeah, anytime. I'm excited and frightened to resume. I mean, things won't go back to the way they were before, but I don't think they should go back either. There's, you know, new horizons, new possibilities, and it feels like you're just throwing yourself from a cliff without a parachute a little bit right now. Like, nobody knows what's gonna happen,
I agree.
and so. Yeah, there's nobody knowing like any secret of how everything this will pan out. So, but I mean, the only thing I know how to do well is to paint, and that's all I can do, and that's all I'm gonna try and continue to do as good as I can, and to hopefully bring something. There's so much, it is, everything is, it's difficult times, and yeah, if I can contribute a little bit to something that puts a smile on your face, then it's worth it.
I hear you. Definitely. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, and keep up the good work, and I'll see you on the other side.
Okay. Ciao.
All right, bye.